Alright, grade 2. Today we are starting with a reading activity. Now this one is going to be a bit different than we've been doing the other weeks because I'm going to be reading this with you. I actually want you to read it by yourself as well. So once I've read it, maybe stop the video or pause the video and then you go and you read it by yourself as well. It's important that you focus on reading stories by yourself and figuring out new words. So what you are going to need for the reading exercise is the worksheet that says R1 and the worksheet that says R2. Okay, those are the only two, and your grey pencil, but the grey pencil only comes into play after we have read the story. So I will read it once, or what you can do is you can stop the video now, read it by yourself once. I think do that one. Stop the video, read the story by yourself once, and then come back to the video where I'm going to read it with you. So I'm going to assume you already read it by yourself. Please do that step, grade 2. It's really important for you to practice your reading, to keep challenging yourself with reading. So I'm going to read it with you. Here we go. I'm going to be using my pen to show you which word I'm reading. So, Story of Achilles. So we say Achilles, you'll find out now. You all have an Achilles heel, okay? It's a part near your heel where it's very sensitive, actually. And there's like a nerve running through it. I remember my uncle, I don't know if you snap it, if you stretch it, and then your foot, and then you can't use your foot. I can't remember. Anyways, so the story of Achilles. When Achilles was born, his mother decided she never wanted him to die. Achilles' mother was a nymph and carried her baby to the river Styx, which separated the land of the living to the land of the dead. She immersed Achilles in the sacred water, but because she was holding so tightly to his heel so as not to drop him, his heel did not get wet. Achilles grew into a strong, extraordinary human. He ran faster, was stronger, and could defeat entire armies in battle. No one or nothing could hurt him as long as his heel remained untouched. During the Battle of Troy, the one thing his mother feared most happened. He was struck in the heel with an arrow and died. Without Achilles, the Greek army would not have won the Trojan War. Achilles became revered as a great warrior and a Greek hero. Now, my first question before we move on to the next page is whether this is a myth or whether this is a legend. Okay, let me help you out with that one. If it's a myth, there will be a hero, there will be, I almost want to say everything will be made up most probably. However, there are some people who believe in myths, but everything would most probably be things that you haven't really heard about. If it's a legend, then it means it's based on something real. It's not to say that the legend is real, but for example, to give you a good example, sorry Dylan, but I'm going to use your story now. Dylan, the other day when we did the listening and speaking, he told me about how the tiger got his stripes. And it was a story about a tiger and how he didn't have stripes, and then he was tied to a tree and there were ropes around him. It's a long story. It's a very nice story. If you can find it and read it, grade 2, then go ahead. It's a very nice story. But yeah, so how the tiger got his stripes, that's a legend. because a tiger is a real animal. A tiger really does have stripes, and no one now knows how he got it. So somebody made up this legend of how the tiger got his stripes. This story is a myth, because we have a hero, we have battle, we have what else? A nymph. So this is an myth. All right, let's move on to page 2. Now, it asks us the story of Achilles. That's the title, okay? We are going to dissect the story. That means we're going to take it apart and we are going to look at every single part of the story. So the title, which is the story of Achilles. The plot or the conflict. Okay, that is what they ask us, the plot or the conflict. Now, the plot of a story is what it is about. If I asked you for the plot of Wiz and the Old Clock, you would tell me. The plot of Wiz and the Old Clock is about a clock in a girl's house that didn't work, and then she set off on a mission to get the clock to work before her parents got home. There's the plot of Wiz and the Old Clock. So what is the plot of the story of Achilles? The plot is that there was once a Greek boy whose mother loved him so much that she didn't want him to die, and he had one weak spot and was eventually killed in battle on that weak spot or something like that. Okay, so I want you to go write. I'm not going to help, I am helping you, but I'm not going to show you exactly what I want. In this block, I want you now to fill in the plot of the story of Achilles. What is the story about? Write it down for me here. Grade 2, 2 sentences, maybe 3 sentences. And write small because these lines are pretty small. So you can pause the video and write the plot of the story of Achilles. Good. Once you're done with that, we are moving on to our next block, which says characters. Now, we all know what the characters of a story are so far. Characters in a story are the people or the animals or the ones that the story is about. So go in this block, go write down as many characters as you can find in the story. Just to let you know, the Battle of Troy is not a character in the story because it's not a person or an animal that the story is focused on. There are 2 characters in the story. So write down the characters in the story. All right, we are moving on to this one that says the setting. What? Actually, you don't say what is the. Where is the setting of the story? The setting is, where did it happen? What did it look like? Explain the surroundings or the environment that the story took place in. So we know that the story took place in Greece because they say that he was a Greek hero with a Greek army. We know that it was, this myth is based on very long ago because there were still wars and battles and they were fighting with arrows. And yeah, so we know that it was very long ago because they were still fighting with arrows, and I mean nowadays you don't fight with arrows anymore. Maybe only small troops or something, I don't know. Okay, so we know that it was long ago, we know that it was in Greece. Yeah. Okay, so write down your version of the setting. Where did it happen? What was it like at the time that this happened? So at setting, write down the setting for the story of Achilles. All right, pause if you're not finished. I'm moving on to the last one. How is the problem solved? Now, the problem was that Achilles' mother didn't want him to die. How was the problem solved? She dipped him. Okay, well, she didn't. She didn't dip him. Okay, honestly. They say immersed. Immersed means that she put him all the way under the water so that the river Styx could wash away all of his, potential doom. But she was holding him onto his heel. So how is the problem solved? The problem was that she didn't want him to die, so she covered him in protective water or whatever. But at the end of the day, the problem was actually solved by him dying. That's a horrible thing to say, but I mean, she didn't want him to die. And at the end, that is exactly what happened. So the problem throughout Achilles' entire life was that he couldn't die, or that she didn't want him to die. And the problem was solved eventually by him dying, because that was the end. The problem was solved, I guess. That's a strange, sad twist. So here I would accept it if you write, you are going to get marks for this, just so by the way. So here I would accept if you tell me, okay, he eventually passed away, and that's how his entire life's problem of fearing death was solved, was embracing it in the end. Or if you write, well, if we look at it from the mother's perspective, her problem was that she didn't want him to die, so her solution to the problem was to immerse him in the river in the river Styx, so that he would be protected by the magical waters. Okay. So I would most probably give you 2 marks for this one. Let's say half or 1, half or 1, and 2 marks for this one. So 2, 4, 2, that's out of 6. You will be getting a mark out of 6 for the way that you interpret your story. I want us to start looking at stories not just as, oh, I'm reading these words for my sentiment. I want us to look at these stories as, oh, this has a message, this has people in it, this has a setting. So we're going to do a lot more dissecting of stories, but I think that this is a really fun activity. So yeah, I hope that you guys enjoyed it. You will hear me in the, what's next? The grammar video, the grammar.